Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Recruiter Insider webinar on client experience. I'm joined this morning by three of our clients who I'll get to introduce themselves in a moment. But just some quick housekeeping first. We've got a chat that's live, so feel free to jump in with any questions you might have for our three panelists. Today is all about the client experience, and I've invited three people along that are Recruiter Insider clients that over the last 3 months since the world turned upside down have been excelling as agencies and their individual teams in providing an exceptional client experience. So they've all been invited this morning based on data. So none of this is made up, but I'll have them now introduce themselves. I might go around, whoever wants to jump in first, to introduce yourselves.
Okay.
I'll
go first. If that...
It's
Hi everyone. I'm Lynn Johnson. I'm the Managing Director of Mayday Recruitment. We're Sydney based, but we recruit all across Australia. We've been using Recruiter Insider to monitor our candidate and client experience for about 18 months now. And yeah, I'm really excited to be part of the panel this morning and talking about what our clients have been experiencing over the last few months.
great. And it's Sinead Horrigan here.
Hi everyone.
Managing Director for Robert Walters in Queensland. And we have also been using Recruiter Insider for over 18 months now. So delighted to hear that our both candidate and client experience metrics are holding up in these rather uncertain times. So great to chat to you all this morning.
Yeah, hi everyone. Andrew McGregor, Managing Director for Design and Build and Director for Public Sector People. Like Justin has said, obviously been a close partner of Recruiter Insider for some time. I believe maybe the first ones to go live. So been using it for approximately, is it 3 or 3 years? I can't quite remember, Justin. But,
we're coming up on going into your third year, yeah.
Good, yeah, there you go then. So morning everyone.
So I might actually throw the first question to you then, Andy. Let's get stuck into it, considering you wanted to say you were the first ones on the platform, which you were. So we have been working together for coming up to 2.5 years now. D&B, over the last 3 months, looking at the data and the feedback from your clients, the satisfaction levels you've actually been able to achieve from your clients has improved. And that might seem a bit weird, but it's fantastic, of course. What have you done to actually achieve that? Did you have to change tact, or did you come up with a different approach?
Yeah, obviously it's great to see first and foremost. I don't necessarily think it's just been because of what we've done over the last 3 months. Last year, in our 15-year anniversary, we took a look at, I suppose, what meant the most to us. And that was when we came out with wanting to be the most trusted recruitment agency in Australia. So when I look back to 15 months ago, I look back to our job to placement ratio, our CV to interview ratios, our interview to placement, and they're all way too high. And I think part of that was we weren't being smart in relation to what clients we were working with, what candidates we were working with, and generally how we were approaching the market. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last 12 months on not being about how many jobs our consultants have got, but the jobs that they have got, the 1 or 2 a week that they're going to fill. That's what we've probably been working on over that time. And I think it started to really come to fruition over January, February, where we started to see our job to placement ratio land at around 2 to 1. So even with job flow coming off quite substantially in the last 3 months, what's happened is we've been more effective with the roles that we've had. And I only commented on LinkedIn maybe earlier in the week with Greg posting around the number of jobs has come up exponentially. And I think part of it is that sometimes less is more, in that when you've got one role to focus on, the amount of time and attention that you put into that goes up. So potentially part of it is that the consultants aren't getting 3 to 4 to 5 roles a week, they're getting 1. So therefore the experience that the effort they're putting on that has gone up because of that. So partly due to that, I'd suspect, as well as obviously not promoting success based on the number of roles people are getting, but actually the number of outcomes they're achieving.
So a long road in has led you to improve your results.
Yeah.
So how does that make you reflect on what you were doing previously to what you're actually achieving now?
I think we are incredibly proud of what we achieved, but I've always said to people, what gets you to a point won't necessarily get you to the next point. So be proud of what you've achieved, but always be your own worst critic. And that's what I think when we looked at that 5-year vision previously, or the 5-year goal, if you want to call it that, was to be the leader across the East Coast for construction, property engineering, and local government. And that's all well and good. Leader's a leader, but it didn't really mean much. Whereas being the most trusted gave us a benchmark about, okay, what does trust look like? So it's not to say that I was dissatisfied with what we've done over the last 5 to 10 years, but there's always room for improvement.
Okay, so a question for you all. Obviously, the market's changed a lot over the last 3 months. I like to think of it that we're actually in the TV show Stranger Things, the Netflix series, and we're in upside down world now. Everyone's expectations have changed. The market has much lower confidence than what it had before. How have you all adapted to this new market? What new initiatives have you all put in place? Andy, you've obviously touched on that briefly. But how are you dealing with that different expectation and lower confidence now?
We've got a really big contractor base, big temp base, and one of the biggest things we had to adapt to really quickly for our clients and for our candidates was to mobilize them to work from home when you do have a large temp base. So just even the compliance around that, getting our temps ready to work from home in that run up to the kind of lockdown period, and then the compliance and the ongoing checks that go with that. That was huge for us. And similarly then onboarding people that are working from home. So working with a virtual workforce, having temps ready that are set up to work from home so that if a client needs them, then that can happen really, really quickly, and they don't have that. The business doesn't have to go without and see that gap in the workload or missing SLAs, but our temps can actually get working really quickly because they are set up to work from home. For us, that was really, really big.
Sinead, how's that impacted Robert Walters? You've got a
Yeah,
large
we do.
contractor base.
And look, to be honest with you, I have to say I've been so proud of not only our contractors, but also our clients. This is probably the first time in my 18 years in recruitment that I've really felt that our clients have embedded our contractors into their workforce in the same way as their normal permanent hires. The engagement's been amazing. And the way in which they've included them in things like pandemic leave, and they've supported them with the transition to working from home and given them access to infrastructure and all sorts of crazy, amazing things. So I think that was so good to see. So a bit like Leonard just mentioned, certainly the capacity for us to be able to set up quickly from an OH&S perspective and all of our contractors and working through that. But I think aside from that, the next really big thing for us was every single live role that we had on, being able to immediately transition them to remote hiring, virtual interviews, remote onboarding. We've been using a few different platforms over the last number of years, but to be honest, using them intermittently, probably, but pivoted pretty quickly to getting things like Sparkhire activated so that we had all of our candidates virtually enabled with our clients, and we could set up meetings really quickly and organize remote onboarding, whether it's using referencing tools or all of the different elements that exist in our world. So just making sure that our clients were comfortable that everything was going to be easy for them, and that they didn't need to do anything. We were going to manage it all for them so that they could get through these hiring processes, because that was the most important thing, to make sure we could get that to happen.
And Sinead, you touched there that making sure clients were comfortable. Now, we know clients can have different, frames of mind sometimes and different expectations. How have their expectations changed over the last 3 months?
Oh, look, I think
No.
I think some clients have been amazing, right? And I think this would be the same with any situation. I think we've had lots of clients who they just want to partner with us and want to continue working in the same way. We've had other clients where genuinely they're suffering just like we all are, and we've transitioned our agreements and so forth with them to ensure we can continue to support them during these times as well. But then we've definitely had other clients who I feel are probably, and very commercially tried to take advantage of the situation, but karma is a funny mistress. So you've got to be careful the paths you go down in these times, because I've also seen people, changing offers for candidates and really locking down numbers that are probably not appropriate. So, in the longer term, they're not going to benefit people. So you just kind of have to be careful about the decisions you make, because they're the things that people remember about you on the other side. So, I think it's just a good reflection of humans generally is the way I would put it, how it's operated for us.
So, I might ask this question of you then. How have your client relationships changed over the last 3 months? What do you think it's going to look like in the future? Do you think we're going to move to what we're doing now? Is that going to continue, or is it going to shift again once we start to come out of this mess?
So was that directed at me? I didn't quite catch the first
part. Actually Lynn, but you can answer Andy if you really want
to. Perfect. Right, great. Well, I'll take it then. First and foremost, you mentioned there about Stranger Things and the world turning upside down. I'd recommend to anyone to not have a baby at the same time, because it's a terrible idea to try and deal with COVID and also raise a newborn. I think, touch on Sinead's point in that there have been clients that have absolutely demonstrated their loyalty. And I think that is because there's a trust there between the two organisations. And she's also right in that there are clients who have shown that it's not about a loyal relationship, it's a commodity, which is the price. And, I think we've seen those behaviours as well. But for the most part, I've been overwhelmed with how clients and candidates and consultants have all come together. And I think part of that is that we've got a common enemy. It's not very often that all of us can focus on one thing and say, right, you're the enemy. But in fact, in these times, it's COVID-19. So there's been a lot of empathy out there as well, which has been great to see. I think going on to 3, 6, 12 months, and I've alluded to this in another podcast that I did recently, in that what's going to happen is we're all going to become better at what we do, and rightfully so. I think if I look back at the GFC in 2008-9, it got a bit sloppy, a bit lazy. And I think when I first came to Australia in 2010, and not to be rude to anyone in the Australian market then, but it wasn't necessarily that difficult. Then we went for a downturn. And then over the last 6 years, it's got relatively easy, and it's been easy to pick up work. So I think what will happen is people will have to be smarter and prove their value more than ever before, because you won't be spoiled for choice. It won't be a case of I've got 5 vacancies this week to choose from. It'll be you have 1, or at most you might have 2. So really being able to drill down the value that you can offer that client, whilst also not reducing your fee or the percentage or the fixed fee, whatever you do. So I think also part of our responsibility as recruiters is to let clients into what we actually do, because for the most part, I think some clients don't really know what we do, or for the large part, I don't think they necessarily know what we do, and it's almost like a dark art recruitment. So I think as we go through the next 6, 9, 12 months, and that's what we've been talking to the consultants around, is do our clients really understand what it takes to find the right person? So I think we'll have to look at as recruiters is making sure we justify the value to the client, and making sure that we bring them into the dark arts, the inner circle of what we do and who we are. So hopefully that answers the question.
And to follow on from that a little bit, we are going to be moving back into that sort of candidate-rich market again. And it's going to be overwhelming when they see the number of applications coming through, and it's how we as recruiters then add that additional value. And we're looking at other different ways that we can kind of separate ourselves in the market when it comes to the types of assessments that we can do and what are we really assessing for. So I think any agency that's able to add additional value outside of what the normal is, it's not going to be about sending lots of CVs, and you're going to have to be a proper consultant to be successful. And there's going to be a lot of really great candidates out there who are going to be in the market and looking for work and applying directly to companies as well. So how do we differentiate ourselves as an agency is a big focus for us.
Couldn't agree more. I think value is the most critical piece. Sinead, from a Robert Walters perspective, what does additional value to a client actually look like? What do you do to make yourself stand out?
Well, look, I think from a very simplistic perspective, your relationship with your client is no different to your relationship with your candidates, and it is built on trust and mutual respect, right? So that has always been the case, irrespective of what the kind of supply chain of that relationship looks like. You've got to start from a very base level and then work from there. But when you look at what's happening right now, let's just talk about it from a support perspective first. Like our our back office teams and our marketing and HR and all of those people have been working tirelessly to build these support hubs for our clients. So the amount of advice and support and learning material that they've created and, you know, repurposed in such a short period of time to be able to support our clients has been pretty amazing. And the same for our candidates. And that's all so accessible for our clients on the kind of COVID hubs on our website. So that sort of additional support is really valued by clients. And we've been running, like you are today, a wide range of webinars across everything from remote onboarding through to mental health and wellness at home and all kinds of different things. So, which have been really well subscribed to. So I think people have genuinely appreciated that. But I think, as I think Andy referred to earlier, more importantly than anything, and we've talked for years, as every recruitment firm I know will, about how there's no way that you can overservice a client, right? So when you're working with a client on a role, you should be so engaged in the process and keeping them in communication all the time, every step of the way. But now, when you have less, live, really qualified vacancies to work on, you're working those roles to death, and you are sharing every step of the way. And I think there's a lot of anecdotal feedback that you need to be able to give to both candidates and clients at the moment, whether that be about volumes of applicants. And we all know there's a massive difference between the volume of applicants and a volume of appropriate applicants. So being able to work through that with clients and also being able to give them genuine feedback about what the market is doing from a remuneration perspective. There's a lot of real value that you can be passing on to clients now. And I think that's the stuff people appreciate, you know.
So it sounds like in large part clients are being fairly reasonable and understand that we're all in this together, as everyone keeps saying. But have there been any out there that have had any wild expectations and things you just have to shake your head at? How have you dealt with that? Might start with you, Lynn. Has anyone come to you and said, we want this, and you just have to look at it and go, oh dear God, really?
Yeah, and I think every business right now is looking at their bottom line and they're looking at their costs. So we have had requests where, you know, they want to reduce, whether it's just our margin or even the candidate pays. Say, for example, they're a temp and that goes below an award rate. And there's certain things that we just cannot do, and we'll be very vocal and, you know, clear on what that looks like and the legislation around it and the overall fairness of it too. We've also had clients where they want to move contractor rates in line with maybe reductions in their permanent staff when it comes to taking 20% pay cuts, for example, and then applying that to temps as well, but wanting them to work the full-time hours. So it's opening up those conversations, but making sure we're doing the right thing by our candidates at the same time, understanding that clients are under pressure too. We've had all the requests here and there for extended payment terms. Some things we can work with, and others as a small business we just can't facilitate, particularly if they're, you know, a larger client, just for cash flow reasons, as you can imagine. But we're trying to work with everyone. We're trying to, you know, find common ground, because at the end of the day we want to keep our people in work too. But I think the more understanding and open those conversations will make for longer, better term relationship with our clients moving forward anyway, when we come out the other side of this.
Andy, any wild expectations clients have had, or any out there kind of ideas they've come to you with?
Not necessarily, that's not already been alluded to. I think everyone's obviously thinking about different ways and means of hiring right now. I think my advice to consultants, whether it's been a client expectation, a candidate expectation, has been if it serves our long-term vision, then we should do everything we can to support it. But if it doesn't, don't. Simple as that. That's kind of what it is. And even a conversation yesterday with a consultant was about, you know, how we're approaching our client development work. And I kind of said, well, you know what the standard is. Just because the conditions have changed doesn't mean the standards have changed. So there's a sort of operating manual, you know, that we all work to in our heads, and the vision of being the most trusted and the values. As long as you're working towards those and you're supporting those, then yeah, you do everything you can for people. But there's always limits as well. You know, there's commercial limits to what we can do and what we cannot do. I think what we've tried to do, and again, it's not just been necessarily because COVID-19 arrived, is how do we differentiate ourselves? Are we giving our clients all the solutions possible? And that's when we start talking about the actual talent life cycle, and that recruitment really represents 10 to 15% of it. If that, there's the other parts of the talent life cycle. So what are we doing to support our clients there around retention, development, training, succession planning, outplacement, etc. Not to say we're there, but it's certainly put a highlight and a torch on the fact that, you know what, that's what we've got to continue to work towards, because right now we're not necessarily being too downhearted on D&B or PSB, but could be seen as a one-trick pony. You know, it's just recruitment. That's what it is. And you know, when people aren't hiring, you're not really relevant. So, yeah, not nothing too out there, but at the same time, it's made us think again about, well, we're probably going to get a good run after this COVID-19 situation. So let's make the most of it.
Sinead, Robert Walters, Global Agency, surely a
Look,
client or
you
two
know, I
must
can't
try it
speak
on with
for,
you.
for all of our clients by any means, but certainly from a Queensland perspective, things have been pretty sensible by and large. I think the area that we're seeing, which is the same thing that's happened any other time when we've gone through these downturns, is probably just clients encouraging us to, you know, to offer up our candidates and get them to apply for roles directly and all of those sorts of things, which, you know, candidates will do anyway. But I'm certainly not in the business of facilitating the process for them. So that's up to them to to figure out for themselves. But you know, that's no different to this, you know, what happened during the GFC or anything else. But by and large, I'm finding that people are being reasonable because they're hurting just as much as we are, which is kind of, you know, not as Andy referenced earlier. We kind of have a common enemy at the moment, so everyone's focused on surviving and hoping that other people can do the same.
No, I love that. The common enemy line is brilliant. Lynn, I might turn to you for a moment. Client satisfaction and the service you provide has long been a trademark of Mayday and your ethos of what you go out with. How have you actually maintained this high standard? Because having a look at the data coming through, your numbers are holding steadier than just about everyone else, which is phenomenal. There's other competing factors and expectations. How are those clients reacting to what you're doing? Clearly, they're acting very positively, but are you doing anything different?
Well, I was pleasantly, not massively shocked, but pleasantly surprised to hear that we were kind of still, you know, sort of head and shoulders above quite a few agencies at this time. I don't think anyone's doing anything drastically differently. As a business, we've always hired consultants that are more service focused. So we do see our people being more leaning towards that account management style. And the business as a whole has always had the directors more so winning business, so more focused on business development, whereas our consultants have been more account management and, you know, really great recruiters, but on that, you know, really great at delivering and really great at service. So they're also just really good people and they want to treat other people how they like to be treated. So the communication, the staying in touch with your candidates, your clients, those are things that we put the process in place, but the people do naturally. So I don't think they're doing anything wildly different, but I've been shocked to see some weeks when we've had, you know, 8 or 10 testimonials for one consultant in a week, like genuinely shocked at this time. And a lot of that's really nice to see that it's at various stages of the process. So a lot in the aftercare stage, and that just shows that we don't just care about making the placement, we're constantly in touch after that and ensuring that our temps are happy and the clients are happy. So we're adding value in different ways. More so over the last few months, I've never had less recruitment conversations with clients as we've had, because generally people aren't really recruiting. So it's been nice to have, you know, just human conversations and we relate to people on a different level. And that's the same with all our consultants. And we've said that to them. We're not expecting you to pick up tons of roles because they might not be there. And that's not what we're about. It's about making those genuine human connections, and the roles will come, the jobs will come, revenue will come if you have the right behaviors. So nothing drastically different, but we're still trying to, I guess, put a bit of a flair on it, show who we are. We did a work from home video and we posted a couple of weeks ago, and the reaction that we had from clients on that was just unreal, because it showed a human side to us too. So we're not afraid of showing, you know, what it's like, how our working parents are struggling, and what it's like to have, you know, kids at home, and just sharing that with people, having that, you know, genuine human connection. I was just saying earlier, the reason that there's leaves and everything behind me is that we're hosting a Women in Leadership client event this evening, a virtual event. We generally have them at a space in the city, but we didn't want to, everyone to miss out on that. So we're doing it virtually, and we're experimenting with how we'll do that setup here in our office, so that we're still having those connections, even though we're not seeing people face to face.
It's commitment.
Yeah, I built a fireplace for this webinar. So. Lynn, that's on a really good point there. I actually want to pick up and grab and throw to Sinead and Andy on this, because I think it's something that everyone who's sitting on this webinar right now and who's going to watch this after, and even for myself and others, business development, new business development right now. Are you doing it? How are you doing it? How are you approaching it? Should you be doing it? How do we attack this? Because this is a hard moment in time to be picking up the phone and going, hey, have you got any business for me? How are you guys approaching this? Andy, I might start with you.
Well, first and foremost, don't start with that question. If you start with that, then you're calling them saying, I want something from you, right? Ultimately, business lead development, client development isn't picking up the phone and getting a job first time. And that's been the problem for the last 6 years, is that you picked up the phone and said, hey, they've gone, yes, I've got 6 jobs. You're like, oh, great, right. How do I go about it? It's easy.
Yep.
Whereas I think if I look back at when we opened New South Wales in 2012, or when I came to New South Wales in 2012, there wasn't necessarily jobs to recruit straight away. It was asking the question about, what do you want from me? And, I talk to the consultants a lot about that. And we have been in our sessions. And to answer your original question, should you be doing that? Absolutely. 100% you should be picking up the phone and making connections. But you shouldn't be then expecting to get a job out of that phone call. What you're doing is starting a conversation. You're making the first move. I compared it to a relationship that probably I couldn't have done, but someone's going to make the first move, and you're the one who's going to do it. And I think every call should finish with, what do you want from me? And then I said this in the previous podcast, but if they ask for something of you, then bloody well do it. Don't do the opposite. Don't pick up the phone. They say, I don't want this, I want this, and then do the opposite of that, because you're going to be, I'm not going to swear because I promised myself I'm not today, but you're not going to do very well. So do that first. Pick up the phone, have conversations, acknowledge where the world is at right now. Acknowledge that we're not exactly hoping to, we expect this conversation to go down the lines of, what do you want from me? And over the next 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 months, whatever it is, I'm going to follow that. Because if you're in it for the long term, and you've done it for as long as I have, and obviously I've got no hair now, and Joanne from Maydays just let me know about that. Joanna's maybe just emailed me and said, I like your hairdo, so thanks for that. Then ultimately you're going to be successful. So maybe a bit of patience, maybe a bit of, I might not be early success here, but if I do the right thing for the next 12, 18, 24 months, I'm going to pick up clients that weren't necessarily available to me before. So I'm going to go about the houses here. So I'm not going to talk too much now, but should we be doing that? Absolutely. But should we be saying, can I have your business? No.
So the long game then. So Sinead, playing the long game from a business development perspective, there's obviously KPIs and sales targets to hit.
Well,
How much of the long game
I
do
think
you
the
play
point that
versus
Andy
going,
made is
hey,
a
I need
valid
a
one,
job?
and I would say quite honestly, if you don't understand, and I'm not talking about you, if you don't understand how to find your clients' pain points, then you can never find solutions for them, right? So, and finding people's pain points is about having open and transparent conversations and listening. 2 ears, 1 mouth, something us recruiters sometimes lose sight of. And it's really important. This is a perfect time. Lynn said it earlier. I've gone through a few of these downturns in my career, probably none as sharp and quick as this one. But really, the most important thing is getting on the phone and empathizing with people. And talking about what are the things I can do that make life easier right now. So whether that is shifting so that, I've just been spending quite a bit of time over the last week or so doing not paid, but outsourcing kind of programs, chatting to clients about how they can exit people with respect from their businesses, how we can support those people as candidates, but more so just consulting with them as opposed to promising that we can find them jobs or anything. But this is a perfect time to build proper relationships with clients. And in fact, I was telling someone the other day, because a number of our clients are going to go into administration, right? It's that's what's going to happen over the coming months. And And I said to people, some of my team, I was like, that doesn't mean that you can't work with them, because if you set things up properly and you work effectively with the administrator, you can continue to provide valued resources to a client through that period of time. And I've done it a few times with clients during the prior downturns, and those people have become my greatest supporters over the years, because I looked after them at a time when it was really challenging for them and they needed us. So you just have to be sensible, and you just have to make sure you're dealing with people on the level. Everyone understands what people are trying to achieve, and those clients will remember in months and years to come that you were there and that you were listening and that you were helping for nothing. And when that time comes, when they have the opportunity, they'll present it to you. Good.
So you probably answered the next question I was going to ask you, Sinead. Your engagement of clients, looking at, I'm going to ask you anyway, looking at the data over the last few months, the engagement of your clients to the feedback they're providing you and following through to the testimonials they're also giving you as to the great work your team are doing has improved. It's increased drastically. Has that been a factor in that, of having that long play approach and what you've been doing for the last
Look,
12,
I
18,
think
24 months?
yes, to a certain
You think
extent.
impacted now?
But I actually think if you flip it on its head, it actually goes back to our candidate approach. So about 2 years ago, I think about 3 years ago, Robert Walters globally launched a new purpose statement, which was about connecting individuals with opportunities, right? And helping people find their own unique potential. And part of my work over the last few years has been to try and crystallize what is, words on a page as a purpose statement into something operational and something that meant something to my team. So in 2019, we launched a project in Queensland called Project 2000, which was about connecting 2,000 people with opportunities. And it was the only thing we talked about in our business relentlessly over and over again. And what it did was change everyone's views around. Every time you made a placement, you were thinking about it in the context of connecting a person, a real life person, with a real life opportunity, and you were changing their world, and you were changing the client's world, and it really, really resonated with the team. And I think it's that connection, and it was that level of, just thought process that then reflects on how you liaise with your clients, how you talk about your candidates, and they know and they feel the passion that the team have for their candidates, and therefore your clients want that. They want to know that you're someone who cares about the people you're placing, and that you don't see it as a transaction, that you see it as a way of changing someone's life. So I think that's the thing that's actually driven the improved client engagement, as opposed to anything that we've done to focus just on that, if that makes sense.
So then, from a Mayday perspective, how do you focus on engagement of your clients? You said you've got this event tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you do besides that to increase and encourage engagement from your clients?
We used to do a lot of visits, but right now, I guess it's the regular contact. I think as recruiters, we're in a really unique position to speak to lots of different companies. If you're the internal recruiter of a large insurance company, you're in your own world sometimes, like knowing what's going on in your business. But we're able to provide intel of what's happening across multiple insurance companies, as an example. So being able to share intel of what's happening in other businesses and with other people has been. I have noticed that even more over the last few months, because people aren't in an office environment. They're craving that, not just the connection, but knowing what's going on in the world. So being able to share that. We're doing some work at the moment and some research to put together a white paper, so that'll add some value back in those industries, because we do get so much intel. But yeah, just a regular. It's simple. It's that regular contact. We also listen to customers. If they say we want to know more about this, and we'll write content around it, or we'll give out blogs on it, write blogs and things like that. So it's just about staying relevant, knowing what's interesting to them. It's all well and good us kind of saying what we think they want to hear, but actually asking, what do you want to know about? Some feedback we got was wanting to know more about the founders maybe want to know the story, wanting to know what we're doing internally, like how our business has been affected. So I've been really honest with people about the changes we've had to make internally to be able to survive through this period. And again, it's just about having that genuine connection and being honest with people. So those are some of the things that clients have really appreciated and they've really related to.
And that's to Andy's point, that common enemy that we can all talk about and essentially have a crack at. And it's probably perfect time to do that. Andy, on that point, has there been anything that's really surprised you about client reactions over the last 3 months that you stood back and gone, you know what, I'm really impressed with that. I'm going to take that for ourselves as well.
What surprised me the most, and I don't know if this is politically correct to say, but when in April we were talking about stage 4 lockdown, I was like, oh shit, we're not going to get paid here. This is going to be an absolute bloody nightmare. And speaking honestly and openly, clients have been proactive in addressing invoices, addressing payment issues, which is really, I don't want to say it surprised me, but it's kind of overwhelmed me to a certain extent. I've been sitting there going, crikey, this is amazing. In normal times, we'd be trying to drag the money out of some of these, examples, but in fact, people will be proactive in looking out for each other. So I think that's been the most surprising thing. Surprising, maybe not the right word, but the most pleasing thing in this. Going to Sinead, what Sinead said earlier, we're human beings. We're all going through similar experiences, and so I think that's probably, I'm not addressing on the point here, but what surprised me the most is just the understanding and just getting around each other. That's what's pleased me the most, and the returning phone calls and the asking how we're doing. And consultants have said it as well. It's picking up the phone. The client said, "Before you go any further, how are you?" And it kind of just gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling. And it doesn't matter if you to get a job from the call or whatever else. You just go away and think, "Oh yeah, they actually care about my welfare." So I think that's what it is. It's the clients have generally shown care for how we're doing as much as what we're caring about how they're doing as well.
Yep. Sinead, on your side, anything that surprised
like
you that
as I
clients
referenced
have come to you,
earlier,
or that, as Andy said, has
the issue
you?
with the contractors, like that for me was overwhelming because I can remember many years ago dealing with a fairly major client who used to speak about my valued contractors as the labour hire, and in fact would ask them if they wouldn't mind having their lunch at a slightly different time because there wasn't enough room in the lunchroom for the labour hire and the normal staff. So there has been over the years times where there have been differentiations made, and for us to have such an overwhelming response, and I sent out my very first COVID-19 email back in probably the end of February, just asking people what their views were around what we could do and how we would manage through our contractor workforce, and even now I'm getting emails from people just talking about what they're up to, what stage they're at with return to work, how they're going to re-embed our contract workforce, what they're intending to do, and the level of communication and the level of commitment to keeping them in jobs has just been amazing, and it is the most important thing. I said to you earlier, Justin, on the phone, like most recruiters, June 30 is a bit of a cut-off date for contracts, and there's always that kind of transition and extension period. So we're really just focused right now on, understanding our clients' commitment and how they can push past June 30 into the new financial year and ensure that budget exists to continue on that workforce. So and the more that happens, the better for the economy generally, right? So it's a massive focus for us right now.
Yep. So we've got about 6 or 7-ish odd minutes to go. I might open up to everyone who's watching this right now. If you've got any questions for the panel, please put them there in the chat. But as we wait for those to hopefully come through, hopefully one person's got at least one question. Lynn, I might go to you finally. If you were to give a number one tip for dealing with clients now moving forward in what is a changed world, upside down world, whatever we want to call it, what would it be?
You need to add value for those people to want to deal with you. It's going to be, we're moving to a new world, and every conversation that you have, you need to be really aware that you're not just there to get something from that person, you need to give something back. You also need to be like interesting and engaging and good to deal with, because people are going to be on a lot of sales calls, so you need to be able to differentiate yourself.
Andy, your number one tip?
Oh, well, I'm going to steal something from Sinead, something from Lynn, something from you, and then just sound really smart with this. No, I'm not really. So I mentioned it earlier in that obviously don't move away from your principles, your long-term goal. Stick towards that. I only mentioned it last week on Pete Watson's video, in that stick to your principles, continue to do the right thing by your clients, your candidates, and your colleagues, and you'll come through the other side of this. And that's what I'll say to everyone. Just stick to that, focus on that, and you'll come through this and you'll be fine on the other side of it.
A golden nugget. Well, I thought you were
golden nugget
with
for
advice
sure. What is your
for
number one
clients,
tip?
but advice for us and advice for other recruiters. Look, I heard this at the very beginning of this lockdown. I listened to Paul Bloxham, an economist, talking about what was going to happen in the market, and someone had asked him a question about what will happen, to our local coffee shops, and will they survive? And he said, well, do they serve good coffee? And the person said, yeah, they do. And is it well priced? And it's like, yeah, it will. Well, then, yeah, it'll probably survive. And the same applies to all of us, right? So if you do a good job and you deliver on what people have asked you to do in a really professional and effective way, and you are reasonable in your expectations from a fee perspective, then there's no reason why you wouldn't try and get through this and be able to thrive through this, because like with every other downturn we've seen, there will definitely be winners and losers, and there's no doubt about that. And some people, through no fault of their own, will disappear, and that's a sad state of affairs, but others will disappear, and you will be able to take advantage of that if you do the right thing by your clients. So I think that's the key.
Okay, I have a question come through that I'll put. I haven't read it yet. What's been your approach to effectively managing your own team, keeping them together, motivated and focused? That's from Karina. You've got everyone working from home. How are you keeping that team engaged and motivated and focused? Because, hey, they can just go sleep on the couch and watch Netflix for 4 hours. You've got no idea. Lynn, how are you approaching this?
Well, I'm sure some of the things we're doing at May Day are going to be similar themes, but that kind of every morning catch up with everyone, really getting a sense check of how people are feeling that day. We've got quite a structured stand up that we do every day anyway, and we used to do in the office together. So sticking to that really, what everyone's focused is, sharing something personal, good news or something you're grateful for. And then the afternoon check-ins as well. We don't want to have death by Zoom either, and you can have too many meetings, and I think we probably all learned that in the first few weeks of everyone working remotely. But then we do lots of other kind of fun things together, like making a video together or doing social media things together, so that people still have that fun element. A lot of the reason that people have told us, that they joined May Day was because they got such a good vibe when they came in and they met the people. And I'm really conscious that that element is being reduced because people aren't having that same bounce off each other all the time. So it's really important for us on the culture side to keep doing fun things together. And yes, they've got, targets on activity and things like that. But if you're not feeling motivated and engaged with your team, then the rest of it turns into a chore and no one's going to be happy.
Andy, you've got a unique bunch. How are you keeping them motivated and focused and on task?
I thought long and hard about this over the last 8 weeks, and where I think we've done particularly well is we've over communicated in terms of where the business is at, where our expectations are. We've been clear with it, and I think we've been consistent as well. But I still think we've still got room for improvement. I think we've got a great culture internally in the office. Have we necessarily got it right out of the office of everyone at home? Potentially not. And I think we've got a lot of work to do over the next 8 to 12 to 16, 20 weeks, whatever it is, to address that. I think the guys have stayed connected and kept together. But from a sort of leadership perspective, it has been just be clear on our expectations, be consistent to that, and over communicate. Because I think it's important now more than ever. We're living in a world of uncertainty. And, our core needs are certainty and uncertainty. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. So that's probably what we've done well. But I think we've still got to do a lot more in terms of how we work from home, how we keep morale up, because we do celebrate every success. It's been one of our key standards for a long time, is If you get a job, celebrate it. If you get an interview, celebrate it. If you get a great candidate, celebrate it. Just celebrate everything, because invariably in recruitment, 90% of the time it's not going your way. So the 10% of the time that it does, or the 1% of the time it does at the moment, make sure you celebrate that more. I think I said to a few friends of mine that I don't know whether or not we'll truly know we did the right things until 12 months' time. I think we've still got to get through this and get to the other side of this. And in 12 months, we'll be able to look back, hopefully in 12 months, not 18 or 24, because that would just be a bloody basket case. And then we can say, yeah, do you know what? We got that right. But the next time we get COVID in 90 years, when we're not here, this is what we should do next time.
Yeah. Now, Liam's asked a good question around working from home and productivity levels. People have different productivity levels when they're working from home. Some are going to watch Netflix for 5 hours and do 2 hours of work and probably be really productive. Others are going to sit around all day and kind of fluff their way through. How are you focusing on productivity levels, Sinead? I might throw this question to you.
Look, I think that there's a lot of people relying on individuals to take accountability, and a bit like Andy just mentioned earlier, we've spent an awful lot of time talking about individual accountability over the last few weeks, because I'm really transparent with my team. As Lynn mentioned, I've been really honest, telling them, what's going well, what's not going as well, what are some of the steps that we have to take as a team. And I constantly do remind people that we are all blessed and lucky to still be employed. Yeah, because there's plenty of people out there who are not, who worked equally as hard, but just didn't have the same opportunity to continue. So it is on everybody to do everything they can to deliver the best outcomes that they can achieve. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get new jobs on every day. We're all aware of that. But we set output-based goals for people pretty much certainly on a weekly basis in the teams. What do you want to achieve? We have our Monday stand up and say, what are your outcomes for this week? What do you want to achieve by the end of the week? What's success going to look like? Maybe it's I'm going to get an org chart mapped out of this client, and I'm going to get 3 meetings booked in, or whatever it is, and that is a win. And you should celebrate that, as Andy was referencing, so I think it's just important to make sure people have those goals set at the beginning of every week, and that we reflect on them and make sure that people are being honest about, what they're doing, because now's not the time, to be cruising around and watching Netflix, because there's plenty of other people who'd be happy to sit in your seat.
What is this? So what's this Netflix thing you're talking about? I just watch Peppa Pig now and learn nursery rhymes. That's all I'm doing.
I don't know. Tanara's put forward a great idea. I think I'll share with everyone. Just as a final note, her agency is running weekly meditation sessions on Zoom for the team, but also their temps too. And apparently it's been very popular. So including your temps in your meditation sessions and team sessions might be a good way to go about it as well, to build that interaction engagement with your contractors who are out there working. So that's not a bad idea. I like that one. So I wanted to thank first everyone for attending and watching today, and most importantly, thank Sinead, Andy and Lynn for jumping on and sharing their insights and experience over the last 3 months and previously that's got them to this point. Tomorrow we are running another webinar focused on the candidate experience, and I'll be talking with 3 further Recruiter Insider clients of how they've been managing and exceeding expectations of candidates over the last 3 months as well. So if you haven't registered for that, you can find that on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure I've posted it everywhere by now, but if not, I'll post it again. So thank you everyone for joining. This is being recorded, so you can watch this later on as well if there's anything you want to go back and view. But thank you to the panel, and thanks for everyone for attending.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. See you later.